Big Bear Nation? Welcome back to the homestead. And more importantly, welcome to our living room. You know, with the temperatures dropping now, with fall into winter, and the price of gas going up, I've heard a lot of people talking about using a wood-burning stove as an alternative method for heating their house. Now, we've been heating our house with fire for roughly the 15, 16 years that Jason and I have been together. And the very first place that we started had a fireplace. And very quickly we learned that that was not the most efficient way to heat our house. So we started looking into wood-burning stoves. Now here we are, 16 years later. We moved up here, and when we first moved here, there was a gas stove here. And after we got that first bill, we realized that that was not going to be an efficient way or a sustainable way for us to heat our house. So we started looking into installing a wood-burning stove here. Unfortunately, this house was not set up for a wood-burning stove. So there were a lot of costs that came with installing this stove, and it got us thinking, you know, a lot of houses nowadays, contemporary houses, are not set up for a wood-burning stove. So we figured we'd share these hidden costs that we found with you so that you can decide whether or not this is a good choice for you. Now, one of the first costs that right away we had to figure out was an insulator for the floor, support for the floor as well, because wood-burning stoves are not light. Some of the big pot-bellied ones, they're heavy. They're made out of cast iron. So the first thing that we had to figure out was to make sure that the floor was going to support the weight for the stove that we chose. And we needed to make sure that the floor was insulated. Now, every wood-burning stove is different, so you're going to want to check your specifications on your wood-burning stove to make sure that you provide the right amount of insulation from your floor. Now, on the very first one that we ever did, we actually built the floor up with cement backer board and then tiled it so that it would be a nice insulator for the floor. The second thing to consider is the spacing that you'll need around your wood-burning stove, and if you have that space. Because the problem is that this stove gives off a lot of heat. So you need to make sure that the spacing from any wall or any kind of wood or anything like that is the amount that, again, the specifications on your wood-burning stove, it'll tell you how many feet you need to have from the back of the stove, from the side of the stove, from the front of the stove, so that you're safely using your wood-burning stove. Now, if you don't have the spacing, the other option is to use concrete backer board, and you can put up tile. And that's a whole nother cost that you have to consider. Once you get that situation handled, you have to start working your piping to be able to get it through your house, whether you're going to do it through a wall, through the ceiling, through your roof. And there's two different types of pipe that you're going to need. Now, from the stove to the ceiling, you can have just the thin single wall piping. And depending on how high your ceilings are, that can get costly very quickly. I think on this one we have like 2 pieces of the piping, and it's not cheap. Then when you start going through the ceiling and through the roof, you have to have another type of piping that's like I think it's 3-wall, triple wall piping. And that, you thought that piping was expensive? Those 3-foot section pieces are super expensive. They're over like $100, I think, for each piece. So you're going to have to see how much spacing you need of piping and how much you're going to need when you go through your ceiling and through your roof. You're also going to need piping once you get from the roof up. There's some fancy mathematical equation of how much piping you need to go up in order to be able to provide the right amount of draft to pull the air up through the wood-burning stove to be able to give you the right flow to be able to keep your heat going. Now, once you're putting all these pipes together, there's actually a special adhesive that you need to use that's going to be heat resistant to a certain degree for these pipes to be able to get them to be secure, because obviously you don't want any of that falling apart on you. And it's not just regular caulk. It costs extra because it's a specialty caulk or a specialty adhesive just for the pipes. In addition to that, you're also going to need, there's a specific kit that you need to have if you're going to go through the wall or go through the ceiling that has like a box that you're going to need. And then there's also, like for the chimney, there's a circular piece that's able to pull in that air to provide the draft for your oxygen for your fire. And that kit, the last I checked, it was over $200. So there's a lot of these costs. You know, we always think of, you know, the wood burning stove itself costs a good bit of money. But there's all of these additional costs that kind of add up. And so we wanted to make sure that you knew all of these things were included in your wood burning stove. The final thing to keep in mind when you're doing a wood burning stove is that you're going to need somebody to install it. This is not a do-it-yourself, you know, build yourself a little shelf kind of project. This has to be done by somebody who knows what they're doing. There's a lot that goes into this. I mean, we're talking about fire going through your roof or going through your wall. You don't want to burn your house down. So you want to make sure that you find somebody who's willing and capable and also doesn't cost an arm and a leg to do. So that's another additional cost that you could have if you're trying to get a wood burning stove installed on your homestead. So if you're considering installing a wood burning stove as an alternative heat source this winter, hopefully this video has given you some of the hidden costs that maybe you hadn't thought of before you go ahead and take on that big project. Now, for more ways to save money on your electric bill, definitely go check out this video over here where we talk about all of the easy steps to lowering your electric bill. Thank you for stopping by the Big Bear Homestead. God bless, and have a nice day.